Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. Senator Tommy Tuberville from the Yellowhammer State of Alabama, and now officially a candidate for governor. Thank you for joining us, Senator. I found it so funny in the oral arguments about, is this a man? Is this a woman? I thought biological science has decided this, but you joined Riley Gaines and some fellow congressmen and congresswomen out there defending the dignity of these women who've been through so much, especially these college athletes who have had to put up with so much garbage inside and outside of their locker rooms.
Yeah, we've got so many problems in our country and around the world, and we're worried about how to define a man and a woman. It makes no sense to me. For 5 years that I've been on the Hill as a senator, I've had 3 bills on the Senate floor. I've not got one Democrat to vote for it. And I've asked women, especially the women that are senators, don't you have daughters and granddaughters? I mean, do you want them dressing in the same dressing rooms and having showers with other boys? And of course, they have no answer for that. All they try to do is they try to dance around it like they do everything else up here. That doesn't make sense. But this is one that just, I mean, it's to me, it's a form of mental illness. If you can't figure out whether you're a man or a woman, or if you want to compete against women and you're a man and have an unfair advantage, something's got to be wrong with you.
And that's my question, Senator, because I'm looking at all of this and thinking that this is an issue that's not Republican or Democrat. This is an issue about protecting women's rights truly in public and private affairs. And do the Democrats on the Hill, do your colleagues actually see this as an electoral advantage? Because people joke around with common sense that it's an 80-20 issue, but really it's 90-10. I mean, it just doesn't seem like anyone that has children who are daughters that would be wanting to back this up.
Yeah. I think people now are starting to realize what as Republicans and as people that love this country, United States of America, what we deal with up here all the time. I mean, if you can't distinguish between a man and a woman, they try to convince people, by the way, that men can have babies. I mean, it can't get any more stupid than that. And so we fight a lot of battles up here, a lot of them about money and a lot of them about, funding and health care and the border and all that. But sometimes you can look at it and go, well, that's just their opinion. There shouldn't even be an opinion here because it's about good versus evil and it's about right and wrong. And if you can't distinguish between right and wrong, when men, it is unfair to play against women sports and take away advantages and scholarships and playing time and destroy a team atmosphere, there's something wrong with you.
And it's absolutely as well a security issue and a safety issue, as we saw with the volleyball situation, that high schooler who lost her eyesight as a result of having a ball slapped directly at her from a biological man. So we'll keep diving into this, and I think it should be a 9-0 Supreme Court decision come June, but we might see, based on the Biden appointment of Ketanji Brown Jackson, that it might go 8-1, but we'll see there as the summer comes. You also took to the Senate floor to declare that the enemy is now inside the gates when it comes to radical Islam and the absolute insanity of New York Governor Kathy Hochul lighting up the World Trade Center in all of New York City after the inauguration of Mayor Mamdani for solidarity with Islamism. Can you dive into that statement and these statements you made on the Senate floor? Because I think it brings a lot to the light that people might not be aware of when it comes to radical Islamic terrorism.
Well, you should learn by example. Okay. I was a football coach, and if somebody had a very good play that worked, obviously we put it in. We try to make it work. Same thing with defense. And you learn by experience and by example. Folks, we need to look at what's happened to Europe. Our allies across the big pond have allowed immigration for the last 10, 15 years, mass immigration, into most of the countries, Italy, France, Germany, the UK, and a lot of others. And they just allowed it to say, oh, yeah, we're going to accept everybody to come in. And most of them are Muslim. And listen, I got nothing against Muslims. And if they want to come here and assimilate, I'm all for it. But they didn't do that in Europe. They have basically taken over the cities with their mayors, and they have a big voting bloc now, and they're causing all kind of problems, rape. The rape has gone out the roof because Muslim men believe that rape is justified. Uh, and now they're coming over here and doing the same thing and chanting death to America. They're teaching Sharia law, which is just directly opposite of the Constitution. And that Mandami the other day, he put his hand on the Quran, which is the Bible of the Muslim faith, basically. And the Quran basically states, kill all infidels. Now, wait a minute. Again, this country was built on immigration, and we want people to come here. But you go by our laws, our constitutions. You can go by any religion you want, but this is not a religion. This is a cult. This is a cult that believes that we're going to grow our cult and we're going to take over all the other religions in the United States of America, and then we will eventually take over the country. And so that's the direction we're headed. And as I said in my speech yesterday, the enemy is not at the gate, they're inside the gate, and they're here. And if we don't wake up and start understanding what's happened to Europe is going to happen here in the United States of America, because we feel like that, oh, this is not really going to affect us. No, it's affecting us right now, and it's going to affect us in the near future, and it's going to get worse.
Yes, the implementation of Sharia law could easily upend our republic and our constitution and the Western world as we've seen it in Europe, especially in Germany right now. What an absolute disaster happening to that once great nation. And Senator, this week, President Trump and your colleagues there in the Oval Office and cabinet members from Secretary Kennedy's to Secretary Brooke Rollins, Dr. Ben Carson as well, allowing 2% and whole milk back into classrooms across the country. Huge for our farmers from Butler, Pennsylvania, down to Midland, Texas, all the way up to the great Auburn, California, although we're home here to Auburn, Alabama at Right Side Broadcasting Network. What say you as you look to be the next governor of the Yellowhammer State? Because there's a lot of farms right here in Alabama. And how will this bill signing and implementation of common sense, as Howard Lutnick put it, make a big difference for those Alabamians?
Well, it goes back to show you how our country has been taken over by the food manufacturers. And what does that mean? It means that we have been taught over the years, for instance, you can't eat butter. Butter is not really good for you. You need to eat margarine, okay? Butter is too much fat and it causes health problems. Well, the same thing with milk. Oh, you can't drink whole milk. You got to drink skim milk or non-fat milk. And let's don't give that protein to our kids. Let's make sure that they're healthy. Well, that was directly opposite of what should have been taught. And thank goodness to Robert Kennedy and Brooke Rollins and all the people involved. They're readjusting our food pyramid. And if you look at it, what they were telling us to eat, it's exactly the opposite of what we should be eating. And it's just unfortunate. But I'm glad to see President Trump step in and say, listen, in our schools now, we need to have whole milk. Obviously, you give the option if you want to have kids, don't need or want whole milk, you don't feed them that. But it's going to be great for our farmers. I'll tell you, our farmers are really been hammered by the Biden administration for the 4 years. And I'm on the Ag Committee. I see all the statistics and what happened when Joe Biden came into office. They attacked our farmers. They wanted all the food, all the milk, everything that's grown and sold in our grocery stores. They don't want it to be produced in the United States because they think that it is killing our climate. And so we're going to buy everything out of the country, which makes no sense. So what happened? We lost 150,000 farms. Folks, listen to me, 150,000 farms that the Democrats and the Biden administration just ran out of this country, put under, bankrupt. And now President Trump's having to put tariffs on people sending stuff in so our farmers can readjust and get back into the game. And so it's just, we are a country that used to produce everything. And the Democrats don't want to produce anything. They want to ship it out. President Trump wants America to have American made, and that's the direction that we headed. And milk is just one of those products.
Now, will this be central to your campaign for governor? Because we have certain situations where Alabama is the seventh poorest state in the nation, but we've seen a lot of cooperation with those state governments that want to work with this administration. And President Trump has said, Republican and Democrat, independent to green to libertarian, whatever it is, I'm willing to pick up the phone. And he proved that before Mayor Mamdani took office with inviting him to the Oval Office to see where they can work on specific items regardless of ideology. What do you hope to accomplish as the next governor of Alabama?
Yeah, I've been around President Trump now 5 or 6 years and had a lot of discussions with him. And he's all about America. He's all about workers. And, he's employed people forever. And he knows how to build things. And so, that's what I appreciate about him. He's not a politician. He's not a lawyer. He understands the economy. But, the big thing is he has a plan, and a plan to get America back first again in everything. And we're not doing that. Now, we'll do the same thing when I'm governor of the state of Alabama, is we're going to focus on 10, 12 things. And those 10 or 12 things, when we make progress in that and make those better, it makes everything around it better. And, I learned a lot of that from President Trump. But again, you got to, the first thing you do is identify, the things that need to be enhanced. And that's what we're doing right now. We've got a primary in May, and then we'll have the general election in November next year. If we do win, I promise you, we will be ready. We will know what we need to work on, what will be the priorities, will it be education, infrastructure, all the things that go along with workforce development, work with small businesses. All those are going to be intact. But the main thing is you've got to make your weak points stronger and get them to a certain level. And it's no different coaching football. I mean, if you're weak on the offensive line, you've got to practice those guys a lot harder, and you got to work with them harder. Same thing in politics. If your healthcare needs work, if your rural health hospitals are going under, you have got to put a lot of emphasis on that. So that's what we'll do. And I'm not doing this to be governor, so to speak. I want to go in and help because I see the problems, and you got to put a good coaching staff together. We'll do that, and it's called your cabinet, and we'll hit the ground running, and we'll do a lot of background work between now and next year.
Well, and you've definitely built up that tenure in the United States Senate. As you see the final year of your service as a United States Senator, do you have any concerns about Republicans seemingly crossing the aisle on the War Powers Act? And how do you see that relating potentially to Greenland and what President Trump is looking to do in acquiring that to protect the northern Atlantic waters? As we know, as shared by the administration, there are Russian and Chinese ships that patrol that area, and I'm sure involved in not only espionage, but trying to implement their fortitude and their power near and around our hemisphere. Do you see this as, I guess, somewhat of the Don Roe doctrine, as the president has aptly coined it?
Well, President Trump is part of his agenda. And again, I've talked to him about it a lot over the years and that I've known him. And playing golf, by the way, he talked a lot of politics playing golf. And his main concern when he was coming back into office was we have to make sure that our hemisphere is taken care of. That's from all the way down to the Argentina, all the way up through Canada, Alaska, through the Arctic, and through Greenland. Now, this War Powers Act, I'm confused with a lot of my colleagues. Now, we've got a bunch of people up here on both sides of the aisle. Some Republicans, they're chicken littles. What does that mean? The sky is falling all the time. Oh, my God, we can't do this. We can't do that. They over calculate everything. We did not go to war with Venezuela. What did we do? We went into Venezuela and we arrested a guy that had a charge against him. He is not the president of the country. He's the false dictator of the country. And there was a bounty on his head put on there by Joe Biden. And so President Trump says, We're going to bring this guy to trial. He does not need to be the dictator. Let's free the people of Venezuela. And so we sent in a special forces group. They did an outstanding job and freed the Venezuelans. And then he's in jail. Now, we got people up there, oh, you can't do that. Well, it's not war. We don't have people on the ground. I can understand if we're going to send in, troops and we're going to fight, ground fight and all that, it's different. But so we got a lot of people up here that just blow everything up. Now, Greenland is a country that's supposedly controlled by Denmark. And their foreign minister was up here today. I don't think the conversation went well with President Trump because he doesn't take no for an answer very well. But there will be a lot of conversations about what's going to happen in Greenland. As you said, Chinese, the Russians, a lot of people involved there. We got to make sure we have national security on our northern front.
No question about that, as I was one to cover local politics and turn international diplomacy all the way up in Anchorage, Alaska. And Seward's Folly, as I mentioned it before, in the Lincoln administration really became crucial, not only in World War II to the Pacific Command and the fleet, but throughout the Cold War. So it makes us an Arctic nation. And I think when people see that map from the top of the earth, they realize, oh my goodness, this is not far to launch certain missiles and rockets in a certain direction, and all of a sudden you cross continents. Now, Senator Tuberville, I have to ask you to put on that coach hat one more time, as we always enjoy robust discussions with you. Monday, January 19th is College Football Playoff National Championship. Indiana Hoosiers, a Cinderella story, but I believe for the first time they have to go through what's going to be a home game for the University of Miami Hurricane. What are your takes on the big matchup come Monday night?
Yeah, I watched a lot of football, and I was at the game in Atlanta at the Peach Bowl, and I was there fired up about being a good football game. And after the first play, I told my wife we probably won't be here after halftime because after they threw that interception, you could just took it was like popping a balloon. Oregon looked like they were just dysfunctional. But I tell you, Indiana's got a very, very good football team. They don't make mistakes. I mean, they don't fumble. They hadn't fumbled a ball. I think they had the 1,000th play in that game where they did not have a fumble. The 1,000th. I mean, that's almost unheard of. So if you don't have turnovers and your quarterback is very accurate like he is, who won the Heisman Trophy, you got a great chance. But they don't have a lot of weak points. Here's the deal, though. They're going to Miami. I coached there 10 years. I was on 3 national championship teams there. I never lost a game in Miami when I was coaching in Miami. And why was that? Number one, we're very good. We had a lot of good players. They have good players at Miami this year. Here's their problem. When Indiana goes down to play, it's hard to get used to that heat and humidity. If it is 75, 80 degrees, they better win the first half because Miami will win that second half, I promise you. So there's a big point there that I don't think that they really understand of what they're getting into. Again, it might be cool. It might be 50 degrees and they might get lucky. But if it's a normal Miami winter weather at kickoff time, which will probably be around 7 o'clock Eastern time, there's going to be humidity and heat in the air. They're lucky it's not during the day, which would be a disaster for them. But I think that Miami's got a great opportunity because of the home field advantage. But I tell you, I like the quarterback a lot better. And the kid at Georgia, that was at Georgia now that's at Miami playing quarterback, by the way, his 7th year, which is unheard of. He's a good quarterback, but not like this kid at Indiana. He is accurate. And if they don't turn the ball over, they'll probably win the game.
Yes, an exciting game. Can't wait to watch it. And that open stadium there at Hard Rock should make it even more fun. United States Senator Tommy Tuberville, thank you for joining us. Candidate for Governor of Alabama. We look forward to seeing you again on the right side of history, and Godspeed, and talk to you very soon, sir.
Thank you. God bless America.